Welcome, ladies, to the Real Estate InvestHER Show, providing inspiration, strategies, and insight to empower women investors to live balanced and financially free lives. Now, here are your co-hosts, Liz and Andressa.
Today, we're interviewing Khadija Jafarji. She had built a portfolio of over $50 million without JVing. What I love about this episode is that she breaks down how did that happen. And most important, we have deeper conversations about entrepreneurship and when enough is enough. That was my favorite part, and I believe that you're going to love it too. Welcome back to the Real Estate InvestHER Show, and this is Andressa. And today I'm running solo. So weird, but bear with me here. My partner in crime, Liz, is on vacation, and I'll be running the show by myself. Help me out, people. Today I'm so happy. We are going to talk to Khadija Jafarji, and it's complicated when you look at building a portfolio. Many people say, well, there's only one route. You need to do partnerships and you need to follow this recipe. And today we're going to talk about how she was able to build a $50 million portfolio without any partners and all that happened until she got into that. Khadija, thank you so much for being on our show today.
Yeah, Jessica, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited. And, I think that there needs to be more women conversations. So I'm so excited to be on your show.
Super excited to have you. Before we get into that, though, we always ask a very deep question at the beginning, right? So we can get into the vulnerability part right off the bat. So for you, what is the lesson that is taking you the longest to learn?
Oh boy. I think it's something that most entrepreneurs struggle with, but I think it's definitely delegation. So we, as much as we do have staff and, we have grown a business, I still struggle with it every day. My perfectionist tendencies and being able to let go of certain things have definitely inhibited some of that. And, but it's a work in progress. It's something that I actively try to work on every day, making sure that I'm building out systems and being a good leader so that I can delegate.
I was having this conversation another day about leadership, right? Because I went through 2 master's degrees and nobody told me about what it is to run a business as a leader. Like, we should have a class on delegation, don't you think?
Yeah.
It's just a basic of business instead of, oh, I'm going to teach you how you're going to run it.
Yeah.
Totally not doable. That's not life.
Yeah, 100%. And, all the theory in the world is wonderful as well. But I think that as you go through cycles of business, you learn some of the hard knock lessons as you go. And, you become a better person every day. And that's just part of evolution in what we do.
100%. So let's talk about how you got started, because many people might look at you right now and say, wow, she has a big portfolio, right? And everything went well for her. But your first deal, you guys lost $10,000. And for many people, that can break their hope, their aspiration to have a better life. Walk us through what happened, and most important, how were you able to recover, stand up, and really focus on building the business that you have now?
Yeah. So, I got married, and everybody's journey is different, but I got married when I was young. I was 23 years old when I got married. My husband was already sort of into entrepreneurship. He was doing lots of different things. We were both working. We both had degrees. My husband's an engineer. I have a master's degree as well. And, he already kind of had a segue into real estate. He was thinking about it. He had done a flip. And so, it just kind of, he brought me into it. I always wanted to do more. I was open-minded. I was young. And, we bought our first few deals far away from home. We were buying what you call quote unquote cheap properties, which a lot of investors do,
Sure.
$50,000 deals, deals that didn't require a whole lot of capital to get into because we didn't have a whole lot of capital. we made some core mistakes, I think, which led to the losses, which is that we
Okay.
were buying based on price alone. We weren't looking at economic fundamentals. We weren't looking at tenant profiles. And we weren't looking at the fact that we did not have control over the jobs, especially because we were such young investors, new investors. So I know that there's people who are comfortable right away investing far away from home, but my personal experience and my advice is, your first deals, do it close to where you live. You have more control and you can learn better, which we didn't do. So our first deal, I mean, it was not a very complicated loss. We had a contractor run away with over $12,000 of money. He said the job was being done. Every time we would call him for updates, yes, the tiles are in, this is done. And then finally we went and, nothing was done. We lost some money. We transacted the deal and that was it. But I think that we still believed in the model. We still understood why we lost the money. And we also understood right away that, being educated people, that you have to educate yourself. Like, we were just buying real estate. We didn't know what we were doing. We hadn't attended. It was kind of like, hey, somebody told us that, hey, this is where you got to go. You can go hook up with this realtor and off you go. Right. And that's what we did. So I think then, you take a step back and you sort of say, hey, like, what can we do to fix this? And so we started exactly that. We went to lots of meetups. My husband joined Real Estate Investment Network, which is one of the biggest investment groups in this part of Ontario and Canada where we live. And I think that that's when we started actually understanding about economic fundamentals, understanding how to pick a market. And based on that, we transitioned into a much better market, which is where our journey actually took off.
I really love that you were saying that, though, because in our Facebook group community, we have women that sometimes they come and say, is this a deal? Right? As if the property was located in the air, right? And isolated in a funnel. And my favorite answer is, it depends. It depends. If that property is located in the market that I am in, it is a deal. If it is located in another market, might be like, no. So Liz always says the property is the last thing.
Yeah.
The last thing. You need to know the market as a whole, and then you need to know the street, the little, like, the invisible boundaries, people. And that's how you know if your realtor really knows what she or he is doing when you ask, what are the invisible boundaries over here? What do I mean by that? Of course, we want to narrow down by county or zip code so we understand, right? But there are some invisible boundaries such as avenues, bridges, restaurants, right? Or a nightclub. Well, that nightclub over there, I don't want to pass this block because I'm too close to that. Or I'm too close to that train station and the noise is just crazy. However, I want to be close enough, 2 blocks away or 3 blocks away, but I don't want to be like, here's the train passing by as I am sleeping, right? So
Yeah.
really understanding those invisible boundaries first to even see if the property qualifies. And then the last thing, you go inside. But I love what you said, that you guys looked at it, took it in as a lesson. So you paid $10,000 or $12,000 to learn that lesson,
Yeah.
right? And I've paid a lot. And people that come along and say, well, I had mentors or I didn't have mentors. Either way, you are paying to learn those lessons and then
Yeah.
to, as you were saying, tap into a community and the knowledge in order for you to move forward. But let me ask you, did you guys have conversations such as, well, we effed up here. This is not for us. Like, did you doubt it? Because a lot of people that are listening are going through it right now in their heads.
Yeah, no, of course, everybody does. And, we come from immigrant families. Failure is not considered an option. Like, it's not a positive thing. It's, nowadays we're raising children in a different environment where we're encouraging them to fail. We weren't raised like that. It was, you bring home a A, it's like, why didn't you get an A plus? that is the kind of hard knocks we came from, right? So yes,
Yeah.
failure is not considered something that is taken lightly. And it is something that is a very negative thing, not the way you just phrased it, like, oh, this was a $10,000 mistake, like, oh, no problem, like, let's just move on. It definitely wasn't like that. However, I think that, again, going back to this age thing, I don't know whether it is the truth or not, but I just believe that we were young. And I think when you're young, things are just different. We didn't have children. We didn't have a lot of overheads. We didn't have a lot of responsibilities. It was like, yeah, we effed up. Like, yeah, we effed up. Like,
A
like,
blessing,
let's,
right? When
yeah.
you don't know what you don't know, it is a blessing at some point.
Yeah. And I think a lot of naivety because we also we had never had money. So like we came from school, we started working. Okay, we had a little bit of money, but we lost a little bit of money. So, you kind of just keep moving forward. But yes, definitely we had moments of like a lot of anxiety. It's a lot of anxiety, right? So, and you're dealing with it alone. I remember that. And I still go through that because there's not a lot of people who understand what you're going through, no matter how big or small the loss, whether it's monetary or otherwise. It is sometimes a very lonely journey.
100%. And I think that the more that we share that happened to us with others, and they say, oh, okay. So it allows other people to say, well, I'm just going through this right now. And I feel like whatever, because I knew better. I shouldn't have given this person the money well, my mentors, when I struggle with different things in business, right? As you're growing, he always says, congratulations. I was like, wait a minute. I don't think you heard me. It's not going well. And this and this and that is happening. Congratulations. You have elevated to the next, session. This is part of doing business.
It is.
So really setting up the expectations about the journey, the entrepreneurship journey, I believe is so, so important. And I just want to emphasize what you said about immigrants, right? I remember because it's a mentality that I didn't know any other way. Right? I remember when I applied for my master's degree in the US, I was for sure like, why wouldn't I got accepted? Now I just need to go to the embassy and just get the stamp that I'm good to go, right? Like no brainer, right? What's the point? And I got denied. I got denied at the embassy. I got a no. So when I came out, I remember my mom was looking at me and said, okay, good to go. And I said to her, no, they denied. Yeah, and I was like crushed because I was like, really want this master's degree. I studied for it. I did all the tests. I passed it. And now because of a visa, because I don't have quote unquote tights with Brazil, I was like, my family's here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know what my mom said? My mom did not say, oh, I'm so sorry you're going through this. She said, what's the plan?
Yeah, of course.
I was like, can I just cry for half an hour to just like, yeah, absolutely. But on our way back home, after this half an hour, we need to brainstorm what is the plan?
Yeah.
What we're going to do, because there was no doubt in my mom's mind that was going to happen. Yeah. And I think that you understand this in business, no matter what, the 10K that you lost or the other things that came after that, you're like, there is no way. There is no other way but this. You said something so beautifully on your application that says that when you had your child, that was the most like motivation for both of you to really build this beautiful business. Because I see a lot of people say, because I have children, then I cannot do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always the case. And I, as a woman, and I know other women are going to hear this, is that, I understand the struggle is real. It is not something that I am negating or saying it doesn't exist. Being a woman, a working mom, having children, having a house to run in today's world is extremely challenging. There are not enough hours in the day. And there's a lot of pressure to be this perfect person, the perfect mother, the perfect business person, the perfect wife, the perfect daughter, the perfect friend. Like there's all these pulls and you're just one person trying to do everything. And I appreciate that very much. However, I truly believe that children are, they are so special. I got married young and we started trying to have kids, I'd say about 4 or 5 years after we got married. So we were fairly young in most biological standards, but we had a hard time. I had 2 late second trimester miscarriages before I had my child. So like 20, 22 weeks. And it was heartbreaking. And it just made me want and appreciate my children so much more. So when my first son, Daniel, came, he was like a gift. When I conceived him, the doctors had told me that if this time it doesn't work out, we're not going to intervene anymore. Like this is it. So this is your last chance. And, he came, he was born on 40 weeks on the dot. And, everything changed after my kids came. My husband left his full-time job, I'd say just about a year before Daniel was born. It was coming to a juncture where we had our business and things were push and pull at work was not, it was either leave your job or you're probably going to get fired. So let's leave your job. Everybody was like, are you kidding me? You have a baby on the way. You're leaving your job. But, it was just the timing. It happened. And then after Daniel came, it was like, this is it. I've worked so hard for this child and I don't want to leave him at daycare every day. It's just not what I want to do. And 2 years after Daniel was born, he was born in 2016. In 2018, I found out, in 2017, I found out I was pregnant again and I was having twins, identical twins.
Wow. What a miracle.
Exactly. Right. So 2018, my twins came and I can literally tell you without doubt that the trajectory of our entire business completely catapulted after 2018. I'd say 90% of our growth has happened between 2018 and today. So even with having 3 kids at home, I truly believe they were the biggest blessing. Like they just brought so much abundance into our life and just gave us so much purpose. And every day when you wake up now, it's like, hey, what am I really doing this for? And not just on a monetary level. It is not even about money. It is about, and I say this all the time because we podcast too. So I say this often is that, it's not about the goal. It's about who you become in the pursuit of that goal. That really is important. And that's why those goals, people always ask, like, when is it enough? Is it enough now? Are you done? You have enough? Are you done? And the answer is no. The answer is no, because I need to continue to become a better person for myself, but most importantly for my kids. I want them to see their mother as being a super powerful force in their life. Like one day I want them to look back. You go and you hear these press releases of these like famous people, right? And they're accepting awards or whatever, and their kids are coming up on stage and talking about their parents, right? My father impacted me so much, and I'm this whatever it is that I'm doing. I'm a doctor now, and I'm doing this, or I'm whatever it is that you're doing, research, or because of the impact that my parents had on me, right? So I want my kids to say those types of things about me, that, my mother accomplished all these things and my father accomplished all these things. And, that generational intellect that you pass on, the habits, the discipline, the things that they see us doing every day that are so integral to making sure that we're raising boys, especially I have all boys, who are going to be successful.
Oh my gosh, ladies, what just happened here? I want to unpack this. So I don't think I ever heard so eloquently what you just said about when enough is enough, right? And this makes so much sense to me now. You kind of like, thank you. You connect the dots in my head, right? Because I believe many women and men are always asking, okay, when enough is enough for me? Monetarily, we can totally put that over there, that number, right? Enough to survive, enough to live the life that I want. But what you're saying here, you'll become a better person as you go in this journey. And I had this conversation with Liz every time, every day, every week about the work, doing the work and who we are becoming. Last year, that person does not exist anymore. And it's just like, I'm being like put upside down, inside out, like all of it above. I really appreciate you so much connecting the dots, because I think there's a lot of pressure into us, quote unquote, reach what enough looks like. And then when you're like, well, the journey is about me becoming my best version, or the different versions that I have. And is that well, that will end when I die, or when I maybe in heaven. My son always asks this question. We continue in heaven? How do we look like in heaven? I was like, honey, I believe we continue. Okay, let's just go for it. So maybe we'll continue infinity, becoming that. And you mentioned here about the legacy. I think a lot of investors think about the generational wealth as the assets, right? That we're passing along, and then the properties itself. That's a given, right? We're gonna do that because we have built. But I truly believe that our way of being, our how we deal with different circumstances, the skill set, that is the biggest legacy.
It is.
That I don't think a lot of people understand the importance of that part in their business, or how you were able, you both young age and growing a business, how were you able to do that? So when we dive in, let's go there right now, because I want to connect the dots. You guys have built a large portfolio without JV, right? If we just like say, okay, what's the most common thing? That's not the most common path, right? That would be a freaking awesome skill set to transfer for generations to come. But since we have the podcast here, let's break this down and spread the word out. How were you guys able to do that? But let's go back to the beginning. Was that the plan to start building it without JV, and how you were able to do that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that it came from a negative thing. It came from a fear of joint ventures. It came from a fear of having to be accountable to other people about money. Because, again, immigrants, like money is a touchy thing, right? It's like we've always been taught by our parents, like, don't get involved with other people's money. Like, don't take money from people. It's going to cause complications, family involvement, like all these kinds of connotations, which I don't necessarily agree with anymore, but that's where it rooted from. It rooted from a place of, hey, let's just do this by ourselves so that there's no complications. We don't have to ask your brother or your father or your friend, because we thought we were asking, which now, again, you realize it's not asking. You're bringing value to other people by asking, right? You're bringing a deal to the table. But anyway, that's where it stemmed from. So we said, okay, like, let's just build this by ourselves. We'll build it slowly. But, we live in the greater Toronto area here, and our market has done really, really well. I think the market helped us as well. But so we just, my husband comes from a construction background. He's a construction engineer. And we just started, buy, renovate, rent, refinance, simple model. And at the time when he first started, he was doing these duplex conversions, which not a lot of people here were doing. So we would buy old bungalows, we would add basement apartments. So then legal basement apartments, we go through the city permitting and everything. We build 2 units. And I think that was our bread and butter. We did that, and we were burring fast. Speed was the name of the game. We were buying, we were renovating quick, renting out both units, and then pulling out our money. And we were both employed at the time, so financing was a little bit easier for us because of that. That's why we held on to our jobs for as long as we did. So I always tell people, like, don't leave your job unless you're 100% sure you've got a plan in place, because employment actually can be beneficial for various reasons. You have steady income, financing, all that stuff. So anyway, fast forward, we accumulated about 20 of these over, I'd say, about 5 years, 6 years. So we bird all these properties, we held on to them. And then in 2018, we started flipping. Flipping became like our bread and butter. And we were doing, because we already had all this construction. So the flipping was generating large amounts of income and influxes of income because we were doing a lot of big deals. And so that's when we decided, okay, let's start buying and burring apartment buildings. And that is what really catapulted it. So the apartment burrs, we were also borrowing private capital at that time, just on like promissory notes to help us with the renovations. Like I think in like 2019 or 2020, we did over $1 million in capital improvements just in our apartment buildings. So it's capital intensive. It's, definitely not a beginner strategy, especially when you're not in a JV, because at the beginning, the properties are not making any money. You're basically carrying an asset. There's a lot of capital expenditure involved before you can BRRRR the building. So, that's essentially what we did. And it was a slow and steady BRRRR. But then once we got really comfortable, we were able to sort of leverage, again, once we had a much higher income, and then leveraging promissory notes and other private money to BRRRR larger buildings. And I mean, there's no secret sauce. It's just kind of worked out like that. And the other thing is, in our market, we have hard landlord-tenant board rules. It's not easy to turn buildings over. So because of that, it was, again, a hesitation to bring in capital, because my husband's a syndicator in the US too. We do deals in the US. It's a lot more predictable in the markets that we work in. We're able to execute our business plan much more flawlessly. Over here, we had some struggles, political struggles. So that was another reason why we never felt comfortable bringing on joint venture partners. We could sustain that mentally, that, okay, this project could take 6 months, it could take 1 year, it could take 2 years, depending on how things go with turnarounds. But bringing on somebody and making promises to them, your word is your most important thing. And in this industry, once you screw that up, there's no recovering. So I think that a lot of that came from that. And, I don't know if you deal with it, but a lot of us, we deal with a lot of imposter syndrome. It's like, am I really good enough to ask somebody for money to do this deal? Like, who's going to want to do this deal with me? Like, I'm not really sure. So I think we struggled with that. Even once we got bigger, we still struggled with a lot of imposter syndrome. But at the end of the day, look, I think it worked out. Like, we're very blessed. We have these legacy assets, which is always what we wanted. And I think that now we're in a position where we have started building out a private equity company where we're attracting capital. But I think we have our own property management in-house. We have our own project management in-house. We have, the proof is in the pudding. Like, now I can go to people and say, look, we run this $50 million self-capitalized portfolio. We do everything in-house. We're operationally stabilized. We know what we're doing. Okay, now would you want to invest with us on this large deal? And now the conversation becomes a little bit different.
I can see the journey. I can see the reasons why strategically you guys kept the jobs. Because what I keep hearing a lot is that 2020 people either lost their jobs or they're like, well, I actually don't like it. So let me jump in and start raising or syndicating apartment complex with no experience prior, no nothing, right?
Yeah.
But the small deals, it's like, you're getting a thick skin as you go along, and you're dealing with people and managing construction and operations as a whole. It requires a lot of skills that not everybody. How can I be nice about this, people? What I'm trying to say, here's what I'm trying to say. You guys know that I'm very honest, right? Not because somebody's on a seat means that person should be on that seat of operations, of managing. That person needs to have the skill set in order to manage properly. Otherwise, it's just a struggle. And I think that you guys had the right seat in place. Otherwise, the right person on the right seat. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to grow and now say, hey, this is our journey. We went through it. We're just speaking from our experience, not from what I watch or on YouTube or listen to other podcasts where other people are doing. I really love that. When it comes to BRRRR in, I don't even know if that's a word, but I just made it up, larger apartment syndications. Talk to me about your time frame, or if that really is different for every single deal.
You're talking about the apartments that we were buying here and BRRRing. Yeah.
Yes.
So, I mean, the quickest ones we've done have probably been, let's say, 1 year end to end, from the time we take over to the time that the current tenants move out, renovate, and have full occupancy.
How big was that?
So that particular deal, I'd say I think that one was about 16 to 18 unit deal.
Gotcha.
The larger, we've had 12 unit, 15 unit deals, which again, take that time. The issue here, like I said, is our turnaround. We can burr buildings fast because we have our own in-house staff. And again, controlling things in-house is super important. I think with control, again, going back to our history, we brought everything in-house for exactly that reason. We have our own property management company. We in-house manage all of our units, our own construction management. We don't have a construction company. We still hire subcontractors and trades, but we have our own construction management. So we have our own project managers. When we were heavily flipping, we had 2 full-time contractors who worked on payroll as well. They still subcontract for us now. So we tried to tighten things up as much as possible, which allowed us to control our timelines, control our quality, allows you to control everything. And I think that people underestimate the importance of operations, especially like you said, in syndication. So my husband's a syndicator now, and we see around us so many syndications falling apart. And the reason they're falling apart is because they cannot execute on the business plan. Everything is great in theory. Okay, I'm going to buy this building, I'm going to renovate all these units, and then in 5 years, you're going to double your money and off we go to the races, right? Completely doable. But what is the operations experience of the person you're investing with? It's who you're investing in, right? And does that person have the operational know-how to execute that? And I'm not saying I do either. Some of these properties that are, syndications are a team sport. There's lots of players involved for that very reason. But somebody in the driver's seat better well know what they're doing. Otherwise, raising capital is just, to me, that's just the icing on the cake. That's the easy part. Let's raise the money and get it locked in. And then that's when the real hard work starts. And syndications go on for 5 years. Our deals go on, the ones my husband's working on, 3 to 5 years. Mm-hmm. So you're literally running a marathon.
Exactly. And I think that there's a misconception about it, right? It's like, oh, I went through the journey of, getting this property under contract, raising this exactly amount. No doubt, I'm not taking any discrediting anything like that. But then when you close, when you get the money, then I feel the feeling that I have is that now I have bags of cash in my bag that I'm responsible for the next 5 to 7 years, that I'm going to do whatever I need to do in order to make sure that goes back to them. But that's when the work starts.
100%. That's when the hard work starts.
The job. And I do not see, even for the ladies, if you are investing as a LP, you've got to get to I like to get to the nitty gritty of who is the operator.
Yeah, venture operator.
Just get into that. And I'm always curious, tell me about how many life cycles you went through it, because a lot of people started in 2020. Yeah. So they haven't completed, they haven't gone to hell back and forth a couple of times in order to say, okay, when shit hits the fan over here, this is what we did in the past, or right. And I don't think there is that deeper due diligence when from the LPs or JV, when you were in the GP partner up and bringing it to really understand, okay, who is really driving the operations here? And let's talk about, is this an integrator person? Okay. Is he a or he or she true integrator, or is just sitting there? Does he or she have the capability, the time, the experience to do that? Because I think that can make it or break a syndication.
100%. It's going to make or break this. And exactly what you said, we invest a lot in mentorship. We have a lot of people who have helped us. And one of the things that we like to talk, my husband and I talk about, is that, hey, how long have they been in the business? And not to negate somebody who's new to the business, but real estate is a cyclical business. And if you can say you've ridden the waves for the last decade, then I feel that you have enough experience to say, hey, okay, I've seen it all. I've seen, not all, but I've seen enough to understand how things can go, right? Somebody who's only been around since, 2020, let's say, between 2019 and now, or 2020 and now, you've seen what happened. Everything was great. There was lots of gravy, right? It was wonderful. And then all of a sudden interest rates go up and everybody's caught with their pants down. You need somebody who says that they've seen all of that and understands how to mitigate risk irrespective of market conditions, and curveballs. There can be all sorts of curveballs that get thrown at you in this business. And, you know, that's the nature of the beast.
Totally agree with you. Cannot agree even more. And for we don't want to discourage all of you that are listening that just got started to say, well, but now what? Am I screwed? No, you can't. You
No.
gotta tap into the community of the women that we have in our Facebook group.
Yes.
Tap over there. Reach out to. We have plenty of the women that are coming on our podcast that you can listen to them. You can really figure out. Okay, they went through it. And how can I adjust accordingly? This has been great. I know we can go on and on here.
Yeah, no, it's been so
We're
much
the
fun.
women that are listening and the guys too. I cannot discriminate. All the guys that are listening is like, you just talk about women. All right. For all the allies that are listening to us right now, where they can find more information about you.
Yeah. So I have an Instagram account. It's my full name, Khadija Jafarji. And we also have our own podcast. It's called the Savvy Real Estate InvestHER Show. So you can check us out on iTunes and visit us on our website, savvyrealestate.ca, just to see if there's any projects we're working on or what we're up to.
Awesome. All this information you guys can find on our show notes. Now we're going to transition to our fabulous 3 questions. And the first one is, what's the most transformational book you ever read?
Oh man, I don't know about ever. Of course, Rich Dad Poor Dad. Actually, every single podcast guest on my show, believe it or not, like in the last 50 or 60 episodes has said Rich Dad Poor Dad. I'm not even joking. So yes, Rich Dad Poor Dad definitely changed our life. But recently I read Who Not How. And we've been talking about this delegation thing. So that book, I say, is really important for any entrepreneur to read to really understand. If before you tell yourself something cannot be done, ask yourself who, not how.
Love that. Second question is, what's the most powerful routine that you do to create a financially free and balanced life, whatever balance means to you?
Yeah, so I know it sounds simple, but for me in the mornings, I wake up and I have a warm, hot cup of lemon water. It's my time usually to just sit and think. It's simple, but it's just my one, that one consistent thing you look forward to every day. That moment of silence for me with 3 kids, my hot lemon water, and some time to just be.
Love it. Last question. Which woman, famous or not, has inspired you the most?
Oh man, if I can say somebody I'd like to meet, it would definitely. I know lots of women are going to agree with this one. Is definitely Oprah Winfrey. I love Oprah. She had this one quote that I love, and it goes like this. It goes, "Create the highest, grandest vision possible for your life because you become what you believe." So I love Oprah. She inspires so many people. I think she's absolutely phenomenal. So if you can arrange a meeting with Oprah.
Listen, I have her on my vision board. She's wearing a orange shirt. We're talking under the oak tree. And if I'm going, I'm bringing my tribe with me. You bet. That's gonna happen. Did you remember our parents that there's no it's just a matter of when
Yeah.
that's gonna happen. Say, hey, Oprah, can whoever goes first, okay? If you go first, you
Okay.
bring. Say, I have a couple of women that I would like to bring, a couple of thousand.
Yeah, a couple buses. Come on, everybody.
Bigger buses, and then we gotta get there. So if I go, I'll bring you. If you go, say, I have a small community of people around the world that I would like to bring.
Absolutely, for sure.
Thank you so much for being on our show and sharing your journey, and really inspiring all of us to really pivot and go forward and build, as you said, build a vision that we got to live and inspire others. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for the awesome conversation. It was so nice to talk and get to know you, and I appreciate it very much. And I really do hope we inspire other women. I think that that's all of us. We want to do that through our message.
Awesome. Sure believe it. Thanks so much.
Thanks again.
If you enjoyed this podcast and want to receive updates on our next interviews, go to our website, therealestateinvestor.com. There, you can subscribe to our show, become part of our investor community, and get updates on upcoming episodes.
If you like our show, please share it with other women who would benefit. And don't forget to leave us a rating on iTunes. We'd really appreciate it. And as always, we encourage you to take one action as a result of today's show and put it into motion so you can live both a financially free and balanced life. Thanks for spending time with us.
Ciao.